Obviously, we had Cologne. Cologne is one of the biggest tournaments on the calendar that we have in CS. It's a prestigious event and generally has a tendency to deliver great matches, great Counter-Strike moments, and this one wasn't any different. Just as kind of a bit of a few thoughts going into the event, I do want to say that I think that the scene is in a state of flux in general right now. I know you're going to be saying, "Oh, Richard, you're repeating your greatest hits with this type of stuff," because you always say the scene is weak whenever there's not one dominant team. But I think in general, there's been a lot of lineups that have had some problems. There have been some lineups that are kind of, we've had G2 obviously changing IGLs, and FaZe kind of dropped off from being in every final to where they are now, and so on and so forth. So, and obviously, as we'll talk about in a moment, Spirit had kind of a cataclysmic collapse at this event. But I think in general, the science isn't settled, let's say, in terms of what the top 10 actually looks like and what the top 10 might look like by the time we get into the major. I'm going to jump in and out of all of the stories at Cologne, and I'm going to do it a little bit different as to how I usually do my tournament reviews. This one is going to be a bit more talking about like fan reactions and Reddit reactions and stuff like that. But first, I'll just show you the overall, kind of overview of where everybody finished. And obviously, some teams had disappointing, certainly a disappointing tournament, and others had very positive outcomes. So, where to begin? Well, I think the big story, obviously, is everyone's going to want to talk about the Spirit bomb. And the Spirit bomb is that they bombed out of the tournament in a way that's quite uncharacteristic. As you can see here, they were beaten 2-0 by the Mongols, which is one of the biggest upsets I think we've ever had at any Cologne, maybe any tournament. I mean, certainly since we moved to CS2, it feels like the biggest upset, because I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, Mongols are a top 10 team, they're doing really well and blah blah blah," but I still think they're not quite there yet. I think they exist outside of the top 10 when all things are settled, and I think that they're a team that has a lot of upside and a lot of potential. But ultimately, should they be beating the likes of Spirit? No, they absolutely shouldn't, and that's not really a surprise, for anybody. What I'll certainly add is that this was not a freakish result, but they got unlucky, Spirit, in the sense that they couldn't have legislated for the fact that after losing to the Mongols, their tournament life would be a match against G2, and a G2 that absolutely battered them. This is one of the most dominant series between two top 10 teams that I think I've seen in 2024. It wasn't close, and it wasn't close because the sheer overwhelming firepower of G2 just dominated Spirit in a way that we rarely see. And Nico, obviously imperious. Hunter, this is the kind of difference maker for G2. When Hunter has a good game, they do have that incredible core. And as I said on Twitter at the time, and we might talk about it a little bit later on, but I did say all of the fucking people on Reddit that were like, "Oh, Malbs isn't going to be able to put up big numbers because he's not getting all of his positions, and they're making him an anchor." And it's like, listen, guys, we're really over, stating the importance of role cells in shambles, because Malbs has played, really, really well since joining the team, to the fact that he's winning like straight up aim duels against some of the best players in the world. And if you do that, it doesn't matter what position you're playing, if you're killing everyone who comes on your screen. So I think G2, I said it when they put this roster together, I think they do win a tournament this year. It hasn't happened yet, and as we'll talk about a little bit later, there's a lot of hate towards Snacks and a lot of hate towards Taz that I don't quite understand. I think G2 look better than they did with Hooksy, although Maui disagrees, and I'll bring up his tweets in a moment. But as you can see, The Spirit performance, only getting 1 round on Mirage, only getting 3 rounds on their pick of Nuke, ridiculously uncharacteristic. And so I do want to say, because, it's not that we traffic in room around here, but we don't ignore it either. The reality is that there were a lot of rumors going around that something had happened in the Spirit lineup. Now, I haven't had time to verify this, but it's being talked about in other podcasts. It's been talked about on Reddit. I think I've seen it as well. I've just recorded a podcast where I straight up reference it as well. It's there in the punditry sphere, so I think it's fair to talk about. But the rumor that was going around was that something had happened in the lineup, and Zontix gave an interview where he sort of said some less than complimentary things about the team and Chopper and stuff. And a lot of people were like, oh, yeah, that's a bit uncharacteristic. That's new. And so there's been, and this isn't rumor, I've heard this from reliable sources, Zontix has had like a lot of pressure put on him for playing in a Russian lineup, even though Spirit obviously do the whole we're a Serbian team. Because, we're based in Serbia. That's where our, kind of owners and all of that come from. That's where we get our passports from, that kind of thing. The reality is that the situation has continued to just develop between Russia and Ukraine with no end in sight. And so Ukrainians are under a lot of pressure for playing in Russian lineups. And there are a lot of people in the Ukrainian scene that are applying types of pressure that you might not be aware of. For example, I've talked about it before and I've written about it before. There are commentators, Ukrainian commentators, that are saying, if you play with Russians, we're going to write to the Ukrainian government, email the Ukrainian government, we're going to put pressure on you. Maybe you don't get visas, maybe you don't get to leave the country next time. And there's a lot of that going on. And so Zontix is certainly had that type of pressure applied to him behind the scenes. I've been explicitly told that. Now, whether it's affected him or whether, it's just an interpersonal thing that would have happened organically, I can't say. I don't know. But certainly that is what people are saying, that there was some issue and that there could even be a roster move coming in the aftermath of this. A lot of people are saying perfecto behind the scenes. Again, I don't know if any of this is good intel, but I guess we'll know when Overdrive posts it. But it's basically, if it felt catastrophic from you watching it at home, that's why. This wasn't your normal go to a tournament and bomb out of a tournament moment. There was something a bit more significant going on. I certainly hope it is just rumors, because I think Spirit, you can't just blame, like, oh, it's one bad tournament, let's fucking break up the band. But also, I am a realist. I do understand the situation between Ukrainians and Russians doesn't seem to be getting any better. And there are all these now socio-political factors coming into the space that are going to impact on teams getting visas and, all sorts of stuff. So anyway, all of which is to say, Spirit were really, really, really bad. And I've got to say, there was some of the coverage around them bombing out of this tournament, which it certainly was a surprise, but losing to G2 is just one of those things. The Mongols one is the question mark, and everybody seems to think they're a much better team than their standings show, even if I'm not totally convinced. But you can see here, HLTV, they drew attention to the fact that Donk recorded a below-average rating in a LAN event for the first time at IEM Cologne. He went 0.85. His previous lowest, since ascending into Tier 1, was 1.04, which happened at the Esports World Cup. And so this was like catastrophic kind of news. Like, people were really were talking about it. And so some of this is in jest, sure, but some of it as well is people are being deadly serious when they talk about how significant this is. I mean, like, Donk is still one of the best players in the world. He's still going to be in that top 3, top 4 come the end of the season. No doubt about it. He's had a monster year already, and remember, he is a rookie, right? He's still very, very young. But anyway, this is the kind of discourse that was coming out about that, and you can see he was washed, and we're posting a screenshot to his numbers. You can see what people were saying about it, and it's kind of like, just ridiculous that people were already having this debate. Like, you can see, look, he's been slowly declining in terms of performance since his Katowice run. Well, his Katowice run was heralded as one of the best runs of all time from any player, although, again, MR12 and MR15 aren't really comparable. Some people are like joking, imagine becoming washed before becoming a legal adult. Washed at 17, shaking my head, all of this stuff. Some people are joking there, don't get me wrong. Some people are baiting there, don't get me wrong. But some people aren't, and that was apparent from some of the other reactions that were going out there, where, like, for instance, people felt the need to try and defend him and saying, can we slow the hype down? And it's like, no, he's done plenty to justify it. We don't need to slow it down. But look, he's not the GOAT. Now, no one has ever said that Donk is the GOAT. I am begging you, Zoomers, I am begging you to learn what GOAT stands for. It is an acronym for greatest of all time. Greatest of all time. This is like his first, proper year of total competitive, at the top tier in the top team, and nobody would call him the greatest of all time. People would say he's a very good player. He might be the best player right now at the moment, but the moment is not all of time. And so Zoomers do this. They use the word GOAT, and then they don't understand the significance of GOAT. GOAT is you are the greatest at something. Nobody that has come before you has come close. You are considered the greatest of all of the time. You might not be the GOAT 100 years from now in something, right? Because other people come after the time within which all encompasses, because time moves linearly and moves forward, right? So GOAT does not mean the best now. Right? It doesn't mean that. It means the greatest of all time. You see, I can talk about this because in esports journalism, I am the greatest of all time. Now, there might be a journalist that comes after me that does better things and bigger things, right? But, like, for now, I get to enjoy being the greatest of all of the time. So I know I have a little bit of insight about this. And so, please, I am begging you, Zoomers, to stop doing this, to stop ruining our language, stop breaking our language. And you can see that people are like asking about it, going, wait, is this a shit post? We're not too sure. I don't know what this is. You want him to be cursing at his teammates and slamming everything around him. I don't understand what's going on. He just came into the scene. Please relax. He still won more MVPs than Muncie did in his entire career. Like, the discourse around this one bad tournament performance from Spirit is absolutely ridiculous, and to sort of put it all on a Donk as if he is the reason for it because he had this like one bad map, one bad performance. It kind of seems a bit strange, but that was definitely where we were at. And look, whenever we have these big tournaments, as I'll get to, you do always bring out the crazies. People, like, the level of discussion on the subreddit absolutely fucking stinks. What I have to love about G2 fans is G2 decided the reason that Donk had one of his lowest ever performances is because he was playing G2. Look, Donk's 2 of 5 lowest ratings ever are against the new G2. It's G2. We're doing it for real, for real. It's us, you see. Because G2 fans will never fucking waste an opportunity to self-aggrandize. And so, while simultaneously saying their IGL fucking sucks. Even though he's definitely, your team looks better now than it did under the great Hooksy era. So anyway, that was kind of one of the big talking points that they just bombed out. It was kind of crazy that happened. It was also not great for Astralis. And again, if we want to talk about narratives, let's definitely do that, because Astralis were one of these teams that everybody was saying, oh, wow, you know, they put together this Danish super team and they've got rid of Blamef, and Device is going to be one of the best IGLs. He's definitely going to get there. He's just going to do it because he's Device, and we all know what he's capable of. But you can see he had this starting result over 9Z, which they should be, you know, beating handily. And it wasn't like on 9Z's pick that it was like super, you know, blow them out the water, but they did very well, you know, on Inferno. But there's this recurring narrative that's coming up. And remember, Stown was signed, and it is part of the Stabby package, that 2 million asshole tax package that I wrote all about on my Substack. And Stown is right down there at the bottom of the scoreboard. And you're like, okay, well, it doesn't matter because they won, obviously. So, you know, it's not a big deal. They go into their next game against Na'Vi. It's not even close. Na'Vi absolutely destroy them. And again, just want to point out that, I mean, it's much of a muchness here. This was, the ancient map was embarrassing. Not one person getting into double figures on Astralis, and Stown, again, failing to get the double figures. Remember, he's meant to be one of the star players in this lineup. And then they play G2, and you have to understand that, you know, as far as most people are concerned, Snacks is not the real deal as an IGL, and G2 are eminently beatable. But I want to just point you out to this. This was a hilarious kind of series for me. This is the one I tweeted about. And it was because Astralis won on Mirage, and everyone was going, "Oh, see, they beat them on G2's pick. That's like actually incredible. Great IGLing from Device, great mental strength and fortitude, because they bounced back from losing 13-1 on their pick, and then they just lose 13-3 on Ancient. And again, it wasn't even close. And you can see once again, there's Stown with his 6 kills, the star player. There he is with 6 kills on Dust 2. He did top frag on the map that they won, but ultimately Astralis, do they look actually any fucking further forward than they did when they had Blamef? Because I don't see it, and I can't stand that Blamef, all the problems were laid on his doorstep. I pointed out that the players that he had, the Stabby lineup, when that got added, they weren't playing sensible fucking CS. They were doing ridiculous things in the mid-rounds of games and clearly not listening to him. And he got fucking snaked out of the IGL role. Device basically went to the management and said, listen, I'll be IGL. No one wants to play with Blame. I'll just do it. That's fine. And gave him that option. And Blame went. And now Blame's languishing in Fnatic. I mean, like, you know, he shouldn't have took that job, but, you know, Astralis, they just ruin the credibility of the players that they have come through their ranks every single time. But here we are. We've got a lineup where, you know, you've paid 2 million for Yabi and Stown. They're not doing anything. Bro is going to be like just sacrificed again, like every, you know, like the Luckies and all these other Astralis talent players that they bring through. Stair is the one that seems to be trying to pick up all the slack, but statistically he was poor at this event as well, but he's like Device's boy, so he's probably not going to go anywhere. And it's just like, when are we going to start looking at the Astralis coaching infrastructure, management infrastructure? When are we going to start? Because Joker Steve gets called out at Team Liquid because he builds failed roster after failed roster after fucking failed roster. Well, how long are we going to tolerate failure for Astralis? I mean, it's embarrassing at this juncture that they have gone all of this time since doing this move, not being competitive. And I do remember, like, the first couple of tournaments after they got rid of Blame F, everyone was saying, oh, wow, they look so much better. Can't wait to see where they're going to be in a few months. And I was like, I was a bit worried because as I told you before on stream, when I went to that episode of HLTV Confirmed at the Major and was just chilling there, and Device did the fucking interview episode, and he was there with that Astralis Gremlin guy who was just fucking, giving all the PR answers. That guy came up to me afterwards and was trying to, like, fucking alpha me, and I just told him, like, this lineup is going to be a fucking waste of time. You're not taking it serious. You've given in to the whims of the star player. You've gone completely the opposite way, and this is going to go nowhere, and it's going to be another expensive flop. Have a nice day. I was super fucking worried for the first couple of tournaments that I was going to be wrong and look like a real arsehole. But nope, I feel pretty confident, actually, that this Astralis lineup is going to continue to be an expensive flop, and they're not going to get, they're nowhere right now. They're not even looking vaguely competitive in comparison to the other top 10 teams in the world. And keep in mind, they've already lost the tournament final to Mongols, right, which should have just been a gimme. That should have just been $400,000 in their pocket, and they couldn't even do it. So all sorts of problems for Astralis, and I don't know where they're going to go and what they're going to change. I won't bore you talking about Virtus Pro. I just think they are bad. I think Virtus Pro just fucking suck. Here's something I will say. What's worse than Astralis? Let's talk about Pimp's predictions. Pimp had some opening day predictions that would put vintage 007 Duncan to shame. This was one of these all-time fucking hilarious moments to be an analyst. It's just like, who'd bother? These were his predictions for the opening, the second stage day one predictions. And you can see he had Liquid beating FaZe, Virtus Pro beating Complexity, 9Z beating Astralis, G2 beating Saw, Spirit beating the Mongols, and Na'Vi beating Pain. And the irony is, the only one of these results that came in for him was the Na'Vi one. And it had to be the Na'Vi one because the Na'Vi team is the one that fucking he said wouldn't be in the top 5 at the major, and obviously they've gone on to be the number 1 team. So anyway, that was something that was funny. There was also a bit of drama, actually, before we went into the event. Basically, you remember we covered, it was on if you're watching on YouTube, it's on the video called Hooksy's Revenge. But we covered, there was a Hooksy interview which basically said picking up snacks was a mistake. They shouldn't have done it. And obviously, Snacks did clap back in another interview of his own. And he said, I have Nico, Munacy, Mario, and Hunter. If I die, they play 4v5. They are used to playing 4v5 or 3v5 for 2 years. So what? I can't die. And so, in other words, what he was saying here, that the Hooksy and Nexa era, they were so bad, they were essentially playing, 3v5 anyway. And so Hooksy saw that. There was, like, people were sort of like, oh, I don't know how to feel about this. This is bad. Hooksy's good. The people are still hooksing, by the way, for some fucking reason. I just don't know why. And then people are coming in going, oh, if you're not a native Polish speaker, you might not understand it. No, totally. It's fine. He's smirking and joking as he says it. I'm not playing the other clip because it's in Polish. It would only mean something to the Polish people. And everyone's like, oh, no, he's being sarcastic, guys. Let's not all make a big drama about it. And, for me, you just let it slide, right? Don't you? But no, like, that's what I mean. Hooksy, every time. you have to respond. Yeah, you always react. Like, it's like he himself rated his time on G2 as a 6, and then he said this. He was like, I couldn't care less what Snack said on stream, but to people who's mad at me for saying I think it was a mistake to bring him on board, come on, what would it say about me as a competitor if I didn't believe more in myself than him? But that's not an honest framing of what he actually said, because if you look at it, he's not saying it was like a mistake to replace me. He's saying it was a mistake to bring in Snacks. You know, he didn't say, oh, if he brought in Glaive, or, you know, they didn't bring in someone else, obviously. But if they had, he wasn't singling out, oh, replacing me was bad. He was saying Snacks specifically was a bad choice. So obviously, like, it's perfectly within Snacks's wheelhouse to have a little clap back. But obviously, Snacks is a cool dude, so he just said, look, most of the time, I'm full trolling on stream. Don't take it personally. It was just a bit out of context anyway. Peace. And then he said, so was my statement, but everything else always gets taken out of context to stir up drama. Now, look, I don't know how it can be taken out of context that you said specifically it was a mistake to pick up snacks. But I don't know, mate. I don't know how anybody could take that out of context. It seems very much, whatever the context is, you're saying it was a mistake. I can't think of any weird little bit. But anyway, that's what he said about that. So that was the little drama that was percolating in the background as G2 went and had their little run. And of course, G2 did have just a weird back and forth moment where, in classic G2 fans fashion, they were like, oh, we believe, and then they didn't believe, and then they believed again, and then, oh, it was bad, and then it was good. And anyway, it ended up not being so good for them. They finished 5th to 6th. They didn't finish in the semis. They weren't really in contention, but we'll come to them in a moment. I also do want to continue talking about Falcons. I want to know how long the Falcon project can continue before we start talking about whether or not something's got to change. And I will even go one further. I'll say, when do we start talking about, is Zonic a fraud? I mean, people are saying Snappy's the problem. People are saying Snappy's, you know, been fraudulent for a while. Zonic's the coach. This is meant to be his team. He's meant to be the greatest coach of all time. When are people going to put it on Zonic? But they never put it on Zonic. They always put it on fucking the players. They put it on Snappy. They'll put it on anyone. They won't put it on Zonic. But it's like, look, I know it's weird with coaches, but I'm from a world where you have to, like, justify your shit in the here and now. And so, look, yeah, Zonic is the greatest coach of all time. That is the prescribed narrative. That is, again, the settled science. But he did do it with the greatest lineups of all time. And they did dominate for all of that time. It's not like he then hopped out and went elsewhere and won stuff. He hasn't done that. So what's going on? And when are we going to have this reappraisal? Because Falcons, again, they came here. They were able to take a map off Mouse, which, you know, I suppose, given how bad things have been for Falcons, that is an achievement of sorts. But they lost to FaZe. They only beat Virtus Pro. Virtus Pro are dog shit right now. They look to be in a roster move seems to be the only thing that's going to fix what's going on over there. I mean, I watched an episode of Hot Take Point Made where I can't remember if it was Casado or Maui, but somebody said James got to go. They're not going to improve until James got to go. Might be a bit drastic, that one. But I mean, look, the reality is, when you're still serving up games like this, you know, in only taking 6 rounds off top tier opposition, you've got internal problems that you need to fix. And it just seems to me to be pretty, like, wild how long they've been able to go. I mean, like, they've climbed up to a 47% win rate because they had the benefit of playing teams they should be beating in the play-in and playing in Challenger, the ESL Challenger League. At the real tournaments, if you strip them out, they're still really, really bad, losing to Astralis levels of bad. And, you know, I think if you strip out the Challenger games and the play-in, they're on something like 20%. It's like actually EG levels are bad. It's like, and it's been that way for a long, long time. And they haven't shown any signs of improving. It was kind of like, at what point are they going to make a change? I mean, obviously, they're Falcons. They've got all the money in the world. They don't need to make any changes. They can just continue. I mean, ultimately, what they are going to do is they're going to wait until somebody like Nico, their contract expires, or Muncie or whatever, and they are going to spend money. It was just they didn't get a chance to do that because they thought they had their player. They thought Nico had essentially agreed in principle and then, went back to G2. And so that is the problem. They never got to build the super team, but that is what they are looking to do. And I think that's the direction they'll go in eventually. But I just don't know how many more of these tournaments they can realistically lose like this. Next up, Liquid. Wow. What is wrong with Liquid fans? Liquid beat Furia, right? I mean, if you look at, the results, Liquid beat Furia and Complexity, but they lost to FaZe twice. They finished 7th to 8th, and the circle jerking from the Liquid fans was absolutely fucking insane. Insane. Look, here's an example of one thread that came up, right? Look at this. Twists has a future in scouting talent once his playing career is over, right? And this was on the basis that because Ultimate was playing really well, and it was in the news that he had also chosen Skulls, and Skulls had gone to Furia and was playing well. Well, that's it. That's it now. Twists just is he's the Sauron beaming eye for any talent in NA, because it couldn't just be other people, or it couldn't just be it's two fucking players. So let's not go overboard. But look, this is the top comment, and it's upvoted, and it's not sarcastic. IGL, Scout, and who knows, I wouldn't rule coaching out either. He's got a great mind for the game and clearly knows what to look for in up-and-coming players. So there you go. Twist is ready to coach, guys. He's fucking got it all. There's nothing he can't do. Good head on his shoulders, too. You never hear about him causing drama or acting unprofessionally, even though he was such a big star at such a young age. It never went to his head. I mean, again, if you know about the NA scene, there was plenty of fucking drama back in the day. He's definitely developed into, fine, upstanding professional. But the idea that, he always just had a level head on his shoulders, you can't come out of NA and have a level head on your shoulders. He got wise. He fucking left the cesspit that was NA. So, just reminding people here, he was also the guy that asked for JKS during Katowice 22 when Rain and Rops got hit with COVID. Huge respects to Twists. He knows his shit. Forget Carrigan having to use a stand-in in two separate roles because they got hit with sickness. Fuck him, I guess. Fuck Carrigan. It was Twists all along, guys. Who knew? And there you go. A fan fiction. I think Twists learned from Carrigan how to effectively integrate new players into a team and get the best out of them. I'd like to know when he asked to do that, because when was he planning to be IGL? Is he the fucking Kwisatz Haderach now? You can fucking see the golden path of his fucking career and preemptively know that, in 2 years, your Kindar's going to fucking destroy Team Liquid from the fucking inside out. And so I better start learning from Carrigan now how to bed in new players, because I'll be scouting and bedding in new players in 18 months' time. Is that what we're supposed to fucking believe? And it's guys, it's been a handful of matches. It's so ridiculous how over the top people are, but that's not even as bad as it gets, because remember, all they did was beat Furia and Complexity, right? And I saw one of the most fucking hilarious posts. It's so pathetic. It just summarizes what the fucking modern esports fan is, particularly in NA, right? During the FaZe game, when it looked like they were going to win. In fact, actually, before I show you this thread, I suppose for context, let's take a look at the match. Because they did the classic Liquid choke in this series. As you can see, FaZe beat them on their pick. Then we had a super close nuke, went to OT, and then Liquid were 11-1 up on CT side Mirage, and they lost. And so, because Team Liquid fans are wretched creatures, they never waste the opportunity to spike the football, even before the fucking game's over. They're like them Atlanta Falcons fans that were out celebrating in the streets when I was living in Atlanta, and I was just sat there going, it's Tom Brady, y'all. It's Tom Brady. Like, if you think this fucking game is over, like, you've never watched a game of football for the past 20 years, it's fucking Brady, y'all. And I was sat there, and I was just like, you know what? There's a comeback happening. I believed. And so anyway, I think they did get to match point and lost in OT. And what was hilarious was this fucking thread that came up. It's sickening. It's nauseating. It's also hilariously the ultimate jinx. Here it is. The Liquid appreciation post. This was made in the middle of the final map of the series. Why anybody would do this, I don't know. I don't know how broken your brain has to be, right? I'm so darn impressed with them this tourney, and especially Ultimate. I'm excited for their future. Remember, at this point, they haven't even beaten FaZe. They have beaten Furia and Complexity, which anyone could beat Furia, and Complexity, that's one of those games that they realistically should be winning. They just tied it up with FaZe. I don't care if they don't win. They are absolutely exceeding all my expectations. And so in this is all of the, yeah, it's crazy. I love Ultimate. He's great. He's so good. Right? But of course, obviously, we all know what happened. You all got fucking wrecked. And so it's just like, I don't know, whatever happened to waiting until you win? Whatever happened to that, guys? Like, if you're going to fucking do all the trash talk thing. In reality, Liquid achieved a very mediocre finish and beat nobody to do it. I can't help but feel that maybe you're being a bit fucking over the top. And I have to say, that's fucking hilarious that it was Liquid once again choking, even with this lineup. They immediately pivot. We go into this. The emotional support thread. Hey guys, I made this thread for any other crying Liquid fans. I'm hoping we can band together and stay positive as fans. I'm very sad about this result, but at least it wasn't an unlucky jumping up 4K. They can at least learn from this game. And it's the usual, living on past glories. And of course, bravo of them to get my hopes up in the first half with Twists and JKS hitting everything. But what an awful T-side. All right, yeah, can't remember if you have a player on your roster that's famously bad on T-sides. I can't remember. Don't know. No trading, no grouped up attacks. Just the first guy in dies and everyone freezes. But what? I thought Twists was learning from Carrigan. Surely the great one, the great IGL Twists, has fucking figured it all out. Anyway, obviously, as you can imagine, the circle jerking around the fucking players as well. It was just like beyond the fucking pale. For some reason, they're doing that thing that they do with Stewie, where it's like, we have to pretend that no matter what rating JKS gets, he has huge impact. And I just can't understand it. As you can see, 0.88 for the series, the second lowest in the series after Carrigan. And if you look at the terrorist statistics, 0.79. But apparently he had like huge impact. Like, never has the Justin average fucking meme been like more appropriate. But if you go on to Reddit, apparently he had a huge impact. I watched the game. I saw Twists have some impact. I saw Ultimate have some impact. I saw Yukindar have some impact. I think I saw a couple of clutches from JKS, which, that's par for the course. He's always got that in his wheelhouse. But, I just think they're They're gonna talk themselves into unrealistic expectations again. The Liquid fans, this team will do well to, have like some good tournament finishes, making semi-finals and stuff. They got a long way to go, and if you think beating Furia and Complexity at Cologne is like cause for celebration, you should have been beating Furia and Complexity with the lineup you said couldn't work. But that's what they were doing. And then, of course, just another classic. Everyone's so biased. How biased can the casters be? Launders is going to go jerk off later watching that 3v5 Liquid clutch. Now, again, I'll watch the game. There is no bias. There is no bias. Casters aren't biased. It's always in your brain, guys. It's always in your brain. But yeah, was Launders excited? As a North American, watching a North American team potentially beat an org? Yeah, he was. Beat a big org, beat a big team. Of course he was. But that was all the dummies. Anyway, FaZe didn't maintain the hype because they ended up going out and to Saw of all teams. And so a couple of thoughts on that. I'll mention Saw because I don't think Saw are going to ever emulate this result ever again. They had like a really cool run and they made like some very good contributions to the tournament. Obviously the crowning moment is this result where they beat FaZe. But for me, all the people that are kind of like expecting them to go out and do this again, no, I think that's unrealistic. This feels like a Cinderella story and one that's probably not going to be copied. I don't even know when you're next going to see Saw play, actually, because they're not in a lot of these bigger tournament circuits. And it could be you don't see them play like a high-level event until the major comes rolling around. We'll have to wait and see. But they certainly did well against FaZe. It was a great result. They had an awesome clutch. By the way, spoiler, I would be showing you the clips from the tournament, but I've been told that the ESL Faceit group have been claiming some small YouTube channels for using clips from their tournaments. I got told that if you use any clips, they get got. So I'm not putting them in, otherwise I would show you that, because I'm sure ESL Faceit group would waste no opportunity to copyright strike my channel, irrespective of whether or not they have the rights to do so. But one would presume if you are using clips, even though historically they've always said it's all right to use it under fair use, I imagine it is their copyrighted material anyway. And so there you go. But anyway, so this was a really good game. I will say this U-Jerks guy impressed me just in general over the course of the tournament. And one thing that hasn't really been talked about is Saw, they look better, and it's shortly after they brought in Berry, who of course I know from back in the 1.6 days. And Berry is one of those guys who he spent years in Sprout, where obviously Sprout were always like super competitive relative to their budget. You know, they always seem to produce players that they would sell on to other organizations. And Berry was there for years. Now he's just joined Saw, and they've had this kind of like, you know, really insane getting to the semifinals of Cologne is like ridiculously unthinkable. Maybe it's the shape of things to come, but I don't really believe that. I don't think that's actually how it's going to go down, and I think everyone should just enjoy it. It's great for players like Mutaris, who've been around a while. It's great for players that maybe you don't know, make a bit more of a household name of themselves. But no, I don't think Saw are going to continue to do that. And what I will say is, FaZe, they really did fuck up. It's like, it's kind of alarming, because Carrigan, when they course corrected, Carrigan did this like epic interview where he said, you know, I've started micromanaging, we've tossed everything out because, you know, things weren't working. And it's like, that's like an epic thing to say, especially after an epic result. And you really thought, oh, they're going to go all the way now. Like, FaZe are definitely in this. It looks like, you know, they're going to meet that form that they had at the start of CS2 when they were always in the final and they were winning events. And then, no, they get knocked out by Saw. It's like super cringe that it happened. And you can see, this is the statistic. Yep, they failed to make the semi-finals from all of these tournaments. You can see, they won in Chengdu, but then 5th to 8th at Pro League, 5th to 6th at Dallas, 5th to 6th at the Blast Finals, 5th to 8th at the Esports World Cup, 9th to 12th in the groups at the Blast, and then obviously at Cologne, 5th to 6th again. And so something has definitely gone wrong within FaZe. I mean, look, I'll say, I watched them at the major, and that was like, I don't know. I did say I wonder how much that will haunt Carrigan, because it doesn't matter what you win. When you are within touching distance of a major that's meant to be yours on home soil, you're the favourites going into it. You did a masterclass on G2, winning the semi-finals. It was theirs to lose. And then for you on an individual basis to totally capitulate. But I'll just point out, you don't know what the secret factor is. It was my boy Thorin. Thorin has killed FaZe and killed FaZe in Cologne, because here he is saying Brokey might be the most entertaining player in Counter-Strike, a true showman playing style and skill set, also one of the most unique players. And I'll just say this, I've never, I know Brokey puts up monster numbers, but if you were to say to me, Richard, if Brokey was in a must-win clutch in a game, for your life, do you feel good about this arrangement? Absolutely fucking not. There are a ton of players I would rather were doing it over him. He makes so many elementary mistakes for a fucking incredible, talented player who puts up big numbers. And honestly, I get it. He's been in a bit of a purple patch, but he made some poor decisions in the fucking Saw series and missed some elementary shots, which, look, it's never nice to single people out. And as what I'm going to do later is I'm going to apologize on Wonderful's behalf for what happened in the final against Vitality. But somebody did do the slowdown clip, which I'm going to risk showing. This was one of those, crucial moments in a game. And it's like, wow, these are the shots that dictate whether or not you go on to win rounds. And people were saying, oh, he got CS2'd. It's like, nah, he clearly misses, guys. This was uploaded to Reddit. It's saying, oh, look, he got CS2'd, he didn't miss. No, he missed. He did miss. I mean, I don't know, anyone could argue that's a CS2 moment. It certainly isn't. So anyway, no, I thought Brokey made a lot of mistakes, and it's like, look, the problem you have with players that post up good numbers and post up good individual shots and therefore always have highlights, when they then make mistakes that cost you games, people never feel comfortable saying, oh, you've got to cut that player or change that player or they're to blame. People don't like to do it. But, I mean, that series, I felt he was the difference maker. I mean, yeah, you can point the finger and say, well, Carrigan's got to put up better numbers, all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, Brokey's meant to be the man. And as an AWPer, you are always going to have expectations put upon you. And so I think FaZe definitely need to course correct and review what's going on, because I think if they get to the end of the year not winning another trophy, I do think the likelihood is that, look, we're going to have to pension off some of these legends, and Carrigan and Rain are going to be chief among them. And maybe with the new FaZe org now being owned by Banks, round of Banks in the chat, we're going to have to, they might have to rebuild and make some decisions about which way they want to take the team. But look, it's only sustainable, for a little bit longer. You are in your early 30s now. It is time to sort of think about, when do you want the story to end and how long do you want it to go on for? So we'll move on now to talking about G2. G2, obviously, their fans are as insufferable as the Liquid fans, if not more so. Let's just have a look. So remember what happened in the G2 journey. Okay, we'll look at their matches here. Right, they lost to Saw on the opening day, and everybody hated them. Everybody, see, this would never happen. Oh, fuck these snacks. I can't stand them, hate them. And then they destroyed Spirit, and then they destroyed Astralis, and then they destroyed Pain, and everyone was like, wow, we're playing so good right now. And then they lost to Mouse, and everyone went, oh, it's IGL diff. Right? But anyway, when they were having the good day, okay, here we go. Get ready for this. Outrageous. It's like, again, I'm begging the Zoomers to have some perspective, but no, here we go. Thread. Does Malbs have the best aim in Tier 1 CS right now? Loud and proud G2 Flair. Look, I know we've all seen him pop off at Pro League, but I swear to God, after now watching every Malbs match, every 3 rounds, this guy pulls off the most insane flick ever. Coupled with the 75% headshot percentage he got at 4 groups, this guy is just blowing my mind lately. Yeah, I think it's just because you're fucking biased, of course, but no, you would never assume that for a second. On the flip side, I will say, you gotta love how Reddit just hates Taz and Snacks. And so Taz broke the rules. He gave Snacks some instructions during a timeout, and Reddit was immediately on snitch watch. Oh, let's get this fucking upvoted. Fuck Taz. Look, is this allowed, guys? Is this allowed? Is Taz, the coach I fucking don't like, doing this? Is this allowed? Quick, let's snitch on him. Is this allowed? And you can see, even posting the rules, blah, 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 and Taz did get warned for it. But look, there you go. It's all against the rules. Fuck Taz. Taz has got to get fired, and fuck Snacks. Bring back Hooksy. Why didn't they let Hooksy just have a go with Malbs? Fuck the Polish connection. That's what Reddit says. What's interesting is, let's compare that to what happened when Cyclone did the same thing. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, we don't need to upvote that. That's not worth talking about, really, is it? It's just not worth talking about. It's not a big deal. Don't need to upvote that. Don't need to quote chapter and verse of the rules there, do we? Right, well, what Mouse did was they tried to get over their perennial choking problems, and they did that by creating a fake stadium where it was like lights and stuff like that to try and recreate the pressure of being on stage, which is quite conceivably one of the most cringe things I've ever seen. It's kind of like that clip of Arteta when he did that with like, oh, we won't be nervous about going to Liverpool, going to Anfield, because I'll play. And it's like, it's not the sound that's getting in your head. It's the fucking pressure. It's what people are going to say. It's what people are going to do. It's feeling bad in that moment when you let your team down. That's what is going on. And so it's just like, it was super cringe, and it didn't work. It didn't pay off. Obviously, they look like geniuses if it does. But in the end, Mouse continued to do this thing where they choke. But they did beat G2. And so I've got a couple of little threads to bring up here. When G2 lost to Mouse, which, again, I was actually surprised by. It had come on that ridiculous run of form where it actually looked like, maybe G2 are peaking at the right time. In the end, they were beaten pretty easily, and it was a masterclass from Shuhei again. This tends to be how they stop these immovable objects, or rather these irresistible forces. They become the immovable object tactically, and Shuhei calls a masterclass. Everyone was calling out Snacks. Everyone was saying it's all Snacks' fault, or the other people were saying it's Choco, the return of the super shit Choco memes. The stupidest, lamest nickname in all of Counter-Strike history, but Mouse were able to beat them. And of course, Maui chimed in. This is what Maui had to say. came in and he said, just saying, Hooksy beat this mouse with Nexa. But it's like, yeah, I don't know. Give them time. I still think they look better. I mean, there was lots of hooksing. We're still hooksing. This was doing the rounds. This was Peter saying Hooksy is by far the best IGL he's ever worked with. Right? Now, I'm just going to point out, okay, that if anyone would know, Peter would certainly know, because Peter, he's worked with a fucking Mount Rushmore of IGLs. Peter worked with Exist in NIP. He had, like, was it Tarek or Hazed in CLG? Or was it Cutler? I can't even remember who was the fucking IGL of that lineup. All right, well, that's okay, but he also worked with Lecro and Bird from Sky. So I guess when you look at that, like, you know, Mount Rushmore of incredible in-game leader talent, obviously Hooksy is the best IGL he's ever worked with, probably is. Although I would still say even crazy Vito Exist was a better IGL than Hooksy. So, and yeah, I don't think that should be controversial, but I'm sure there's going to be someone who disagrees with it. Anyway, G2 obviously lost to Mouse. We ended up with this thread, and what I like about this thread is it's one of those threads where they're pretending it's a joke. But it's not. It's genuinely what they think. But they framed it as a joke because they just want to talk about Stewie 2K, who, by the way, is back to streaming to 800 people again. Almost like I can see the future. Without Stewie 2K, I don't know how G2 is ever going to win another big tournament like Dallas. Then we also had a request for the return of Hooksy. It was like, someone help me understand the G2 roster moves. Hooksy with JKS is the fourth, won the biggest tournaments. They won 2 big tournaments. They lost a lot with weaker Nexa. Got a better player in Malbs in place of Nexa. So why wouldn't you then give Hooksy another chance with Malbs? Do you think maybe Hooksy sort of like shit the bed somewhat by going away to a wedding, them using a stand-in who hadn't played competitively for 2 years and playing a looser style? They win that tournament. Hooksy comes back to the next tournament after that and then plays worse than Taz when he was the stand-in. Like, do you think maybe that spells disaster for a playing career or not? But this was the debate. You can see. I think winning an event without him twisted the knife into them removing Hooksy. I think some got blinded of how they beat every team to get into the arena, but when they actually got tested, they didn't do as well as they should. I also agree it's individual heroics that are carrying them at the moment. Should they have given Hooksy a chance? Maybe, but what's done is done, and G2 fans will be stuck with this new IGL and Taz for a few more tournaments. This team is cooked strategically with Snacks and Taz on the team, and that got exposed today. Well, it's like, listen, they were going up against what people widely regard as one of the best young IGLs. The G2 roster is 19-9 in maps. We don't hit the panic button. Spirit is clearly not in shape. Other than that, they only beat FaZe, and they should be fighting for number 1. It just feels like they are nowhere near that level. All right, sound. Polish fans are going to rush and tell you Snacks is better than Hooksy. I mean, he is, as a player. I'm sorry, but if Snacks is IGL of a Tier S team in 2024, I'm an astronaut. Well, I hope you fucking remember to put on your helmet, you daft cunt. Because he objectively is an IGL of a Tier S team in 2024, isn't he? So, there was that. Just utter dribble from the fans again. Now, in reality, somebody tried to be like, listen, what if we look at, like, facts and that? Okay. And so they said G2 with Snacks, second place, a quarterfinal, not including blast groups. Meanwhile, the latest Hooksy G2, and this is obviously the end of his time with G2, and you can see, like, this is where they were at, you know, semi-finals, all of this stuff. Close, but no cigar. And then someone goes, G2 with Hooksy at Cologne last year, a fucking trophy, right? What game was that in, guys? What game did they win those trophies in? Because it wasn't CS2, was it? Gonna have to start fucking accepting it. We've moved on. If you want to keep living on them past glories, that's all upon you all. But CS2's a different game with a different format. Just saying. Anyway, when Munacy went out of the tournament, you got to love this kid. He took the opportunity to do this, and he said, the championship ended so quickly for us, I didn't have time to say what I wanted to say on stage. I want to send a message to a man who inspired millions of people, including me. Sasha, meaning simple, we are all waiting for your return to the pro stage. It's time to turn haters into your fans once again. And I can't understate how difficult it is and how complicated it is for Russians and Ukrainians to express mutual support for each other against the backdrop of war and the bitter infighting in the esports community. But he fucking did it anyway. He did it anyway, because Munacy's got a great head on his shoulders for someone so young and never seems to have been sucked in with the more poisonous aspects of that. I mean, this is the guy, by the way, who certain publications in Russia and the CIS region and Ukraine, they tried to ruin him for having a photo taken with Bit. Tried to ruin Bit, tried to ruin Munacy. Said those two, you can't ever be seen with each other. It's like they came up through an academy team together. So, did think this was super cool. And this is why, even though I'm on record as saying, fuck G2, fuck all their players and fuck all their fans, I don't really mean it, guys. I can't quit G2. I love them. Love Munacy, love Taz, love Nico, love them. But they did go out 5-6. Right. We'll talk about, obviously, the big talking points, the finals. Don't want to dwell too much on Mouse. Obviously, they bottled it again. They need to talk to a sports psychologist. I've said it many times. I don't know if they are. If they have been talking to one, talk to another one. You need to fucking 100% figure out how you can start winning these tournaments, because it's not good enough to just be saying, oh, well, we are a young and inexperienced team. It's like, no, you should be winning now when you're good now. You've had the academy development. You've had all of that stuff. It's definitely the time that you should be. You can't just rely on ESL Pro Leagues. You need to be good now and win now, because this is your time. I mean, this team is 100% going to get picked apart in a few years. There's no doubt about it. Maybe next year, in 2025, when people start getting a bit more money, we move back into this open circuit that Valve are going to promote. And no, bollocks. Who's that in the chat? They didn't choke. Na'Vi, you're just better. Absolute grade A balonium. Weapons grade balonium, I'm afraid, my friend. This is a fucking winnable series if ever I saw one. And if you kind of watch the series if you don't think this was there for them. The Inferno, you know, the comeback to take it to OT, and you go, okay, well, you know, you got to do something within those rounds. But this, it's like, you know, you're 8-4 up on Mirage, and you end up losing 13-11, you got to convert. That was an eminently winnable game, and they don't win these eminently winnable games. They don't win them, and they never win them. They'll do something like a masterclass on G2, and then they go, shit, we're really within touch, and then they just fucking capitulate. It's like, these are the games, like, yeah, credit to Na'Vi, you got to win them, but Mouse don't win these games. Like, whenever it's super fine margins like this, and it's real high stakes and high pressure, this is when Mouse go missing. And there's no way you can tell me, like, think about how many players on this roster are, like, going to be in the, you know, top 20 come the end of the year. You know, Jimmy and Zershan. And you know, it's like, well, and we've already talked about it with, like, you know, Maui, how Torji's going to be just on the outs. It's like, you have to fucking go and win tournaments now. You have to do it now, because, as I said, Shuey's going to be at fucking FaZe in a year or two, or a G2 in a year or two, and this team's going to get picked apart, and, you know, Jimmy's going to be somewhere else, and Zershan's going to be somewhere else. There's probably going to be an all fucking Israeli lineup put together at some point, because that would just absolutely fucking bang everyone's fucking lips off. It would be so fucking good. And who knows where we're going to be geopolitically in a year or two. Maybe that might become some sort of weird fucked up necessity. The bottom line is, Mouse are going to regret all these missed chances. They're going to regret only taking pro leagues, and so I know I'm not giving them a pass. I'm not excusing Mouse. This is another failed opportunity. Now, here's what I will say: I love watching this Na'Vi team, and I was super impressed with their run here. I thought they had so many fucking good games. And just enjoyable to watch, and it was super harsh actually that like people got on top of like Wonderful for having a pretty you know, a couple of ordinary maps in the final, missing some big shots when the pressure was getting to him. I mean, in terms of a run, it's not great. Like, Na'Vi should beat Pain, should beat Astralis, should beat Saw. Mouse, we've already talked about. You know, that's the only legit one there. But, like, when they get to the Vitality game, this final, like, fucking delivered. It was, like, really, really good. It seemed to me that, like, this is the first real great MR12 best of 5 kind of final where you felt that, oh, wow, actually, yeah, all the finals should be best of 5. The major should be best of 5. If they're all going to be like this, back and forth, endless overtimes, and yet we can still fit it into half a day instead of it being 8 hours. Like, I put it this way. I just want to say this. I'm even going to go to Big Head. I feel totally vindicated about everything I've ever said about MR12. I feel totally vindicated. People were like, oh, MR15 is the better game, and the best way to play it, MR12 is pathetic, and the economy has... The last year of CSGO was fucking miserable. It was miserable to watch. Who was having fun? No one was having fun. Best of 5 finals taking like fucking 8 hours? Nah, miss me with that shit. And so I could never in good conscience say, let's have a best of 5 final, because it's not fair on a player to fucking sit there on stage and play for fucking 8 hours. And so we are so close to perfect modern Counter-Strike now with the MR12. You know what we have to do? We've got to go just one step further, one step beyond. It is time to get rid of pistols. That's it. That's all you have to do. We do what we should have done back in MR15, and we take out the pistols, so we can't have that argument about how pistols are fucking disproportionately important now, because just get rid of them then. Just get rid of them. And yeah, I'm aware that moves us a little bit closer to like the MR9 era of CGS, where it was 16k starting. Get rid of pistols, start with 10k starting cash. Let's have real fucking Counter-Strike. Real rock'em sock'em. The only time you have to eco is when your money's fucked, when you've like lost a while, but then we're going to work something into the reset rounds, and we're going to bring all that back. Do I mean pistol round or pistols? Obviously, you don't remove the pistols, mate. That's fucking mental. You remove pistol rounds. There's no need for them to be there anymore. You get rid of that. Yeah, let's take all the guns out of the fucking game. Yeah, that'd be wicked, yeah. Zeus only. A new concept for an esport. But yeah, this is what we do, mate. We fucking get the pistol rounds out. Everyone's got guns at the start. Ecos are super rare, but they separate the men from the boys, because if you're good with pistols and you win your ecos, you can turn a game on its head, and you don't get 3 rounds at the start of the game, and when you're only getting 12 rounds of fucking half. Let's just do it. Let's just commit. Let's do it. Come on, Valve. It's time. It's 100% time. Anyway, for me, I think they should have the best of 5 finals now at the major. If it can be like this, then fantastic. Let's fucking do it. So anyway, this final was immense, and really, really fucking back and forth and enjoyable. So many great clutches and individual moments, and predicated by a fucking final where Ziwu didn't go missing for a change. Put up 100 kills across 4 maps, which is just insane to even think about. Great consistency, but honestly as well, like, I thought there were like a lot of this really could have gone back, this could have gone either way. And what I'll say is, Vitality, like Apex, absolutely the difference maker here. Apex, absolutely the difference maker in this Vitality run. He stepped up individually, his level of performance. He was like ridiculous, actually. I think he even top fragged on, was it just 2 on Nuke? Yeah, it was Nuke. Just insane. And he called an absolute masterclass against Blade and Alexi. But I want people to fucking remember, this is when you knew it was absolutely fucking cooked. On Inferno, there was a run where Vitality won 3 rounds. They had like a fucking 1v2 clutch. Then they had a round where Spinks jumped out of apartment, killed someone on site, and then got a double spray transfer for a 3-man. And then the round after that, Apex ran up Banana and just killed 3 people. Like it was fucking 2015 again. And it was just like, well, that's that then. Like, there's no way Vitality can conceivably lose this fucking series. And what was crazy, Na'Vi still brought it back after that to make the scoreline respectable. The final was so good. One of the best series of the year. Great job by Machine and Sponge, casting it, because it's tough when it's lots of overtimes and you don't know which way it's going to go. A 16-14, a 13-10, a 22-20, and then a 13-9. It's a lot of fucking rounds of Counter-Strike, a lot of cut and thrust. But in the end, I've got to say, Na'Vi are a good fucking team. Like, Na'Vi are definitely good value for... You can make an argument they're the number 1 team in the world. Obviously, they've been in a couple of finals, won another trophy, current major holders. Yeah, I mean, great point, Heseltine. The Sponge call on the Imma defuse when he had the OT... That was like one of Sponge's best calls, like in the year. I mean, like, for real, it was like really, the tension was insane, and just what a wonderful showcase for the game and where we're at right now. And as we get into the kind of nitty gritty of pushing towards the major. But here's what I want you to think about. First of all, I got to say, it was uncharacteristic from Wonderful. People are gonna give Wonderful like a lot of shit for this. And it's a narrative that will not hold up, because even in missing a lot of clutches that he did, and obviously having that 0.88 on Mirage, if you look at what the performances over the course of the tournament, particularly against Saw, who were like popping off and could have potentially been one of those like banana skin teams. No, he had a really, really solid tournament. So people like criticizing Wonderful for this. Nah, I'm gonna definitely say he played really, really well, and understand he's got one of the most difficult jobs on this team, because while Simple is lurking in the background and he's been posting again about how he wants to come back and he wants to do all his stuff, it's like he's got the hardest job, because he's the one that instantly gets replaced if Simple wants to come back. And that's bullshit, because for me, I don't think there should be a road back. This Na'Vi team getting to number 1 without Simple, it's arguably Blade's greatest achievement. It's because think about what he had to do. They went from having a roster that spoke the same language to speaking in English. They went from taking a roster that had actually just disparate parts and not a lot of experience. He went with working with an IGL that he's never worked with before, one he's been less than complimentary about and sometimes in interviews, and yet somehow to get, and also Imma, first big roster move after it Gamer Legion. I've criticized Blade in the past because there was a period where Blade was super stubborn, playing them flip side tactics, style executes, and they kept losing to Gambit, who had that more fluid, in-your-face style back in the online era, and that was famously where the false quote about me calling him a clone fucking comes from. I've always respected Blade as a coach, which is why he had to be winning trophies with that Na'Vi lineup at that time. He had like the best fucking player in the world and one of the best lineups in the world. Like, what does it say if like Simple and Electronica you're starting two players? Like, you've got to fucking win trophies, bro. That's how it is. Anyway, what he's done with this, I honestly think it's his best achievement. Certainly, throughout CSGO and CS2 combined. I think building a brand new roster of inexperienced players, an international roster where you always lose a step because you're speaking in the second language, doing it while you've had the shadow of Simple, the greatest player of all time, waiting in the wings. Can I come back yet? Can I come back yet? One bad performance for anyone? One underachievement? Nah, it's actually this is huge for him. And by the way, I don't even think it matters what happens for the rest of the year. I think Blade is coach of the year. I think he's CS coach of the year by far. It doesn't matter whether he wins another trophy. Whatever happens, he's 100%. So a lot of love for this Na'Vi lineup. But in the end, they ran into a Vitality team that were just so fucking good. And let's talk about that Vitality team, because I actually think it's important. I don't think people realize we could have been in an era. Now, an era has been unthinkable for a while. In fact, people are saying, I wonder if we'll ever get an era ever again. We might never get an era, right? Like, one team might never dominate. Everyone's super close together. Maybe that will never happen in CS2. Maybe MR12 is a factor in it. Nobody knows. Like, we don't know if we're ever going to get this era again. But the team Vitality have put together is crazy. I mean, Ziwu, you don't need to talk about. Like, Mezzi raised his game. He was at rock bottom. It looked like he was going to get fucking cut. He's raised his game now, and he's playing that steady, like, I'm an anchor, so 1.00 kind of role that everyone seems to allow and forgive for the anchor role. Meanwhile, Jimmy's posting superstar numbers at anchor, but whatever. Spinks started out rough, one of the best riflers in the world. Going to be in that, top 15 come the end of the year. Flames has grown so much. I think he's one of the most clutch players in World Counter-Strike. I think Flames is so unbelievably clutch. Big-time player, steps up whenever needed, has so many great individual moments. And remember, he's not supposed to be this good. He's not supposed to be on a level with Spinks, but he is. And so this lineup, they were so close to basically we could be sat in an era. I'll show you what I mean. Let's just go back to the major, right? Semi-finalists at the major, where they got was it the Carrigan Masterclass? Yes, the Carrigan Masterclass, where you can see the result here with the whole Vertigo flex pick, and then Vitality won it, and then they took them on Inferno. Like, I think if Vitality had got to that final over FaZe, they conceivably beat Na'Vi to win it. So they could have been sat on a major. I mean, woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? This is freakish. The ESL Pro League final where they lose 3-0, this doesn't even make any sense in a world like where they just, Mouse, EPL heroes, whatever, but Vitality not getting a map in a best of 5 against Mouse, like, what the fuck? Like, that's crazy. And this is obviously where both Apex and Mezzi had pretty stinking contributions. A lot of people thought this was going to be Mezzi's last appearance in the shirt. Now, listen, I'm going to just say this. Vitality, I think, are a better team than Mouse, and I think they should have won that. That should have been competitive. So we could have been sat on a major. We could have been sat on a Pro League. This is ridiculous. Losing to the G-Stu phenomenon in Dallas, right? Where, again, it was like 2 overtime maps and the crowd cheating their tits off, right? Like, just calling it. They should have had Dallas. Didn't. And so suddenly we're looking at, like, big tournaments. And then, again, they were in the spring final semis. And then, obviously, they've won Cologne. So, I mean, look, they could have had, like, 3 big trophies. They could have had a major and 2 big trophies. that we were so close to being in this era of vitality. And so, I think people need to sort of pay attention to kind of where we're at for the, tournaments that are coming up. I think vitality are deceptively better than you might think they are. And so with Apex rolling back the years for two fucking, it wasn't just a final, he did it before as well. He even joked saying, I had a life game. He had a fucking life game in this one for sure. I mean, like, really played well on an individual level. It wasn't just his calling. He was phenomenal. If they maintain this form, they're going to be a handful for the rest of the year. And I think stylistically, actually they do match up with Na'Vi pretty well. It would have been interesting to see what would have happened if we did go to a decider, if somehow Na'Vi had come back in Inferno. I just think vitality overall with the ZWU X factor and having I would argue, a stronger map pool, they're definitely going to be a handful at any tournament, and you certainly shouldn't count them out. Now, let's get into some other bits and pieces. During the final, Na'Vi fans were out in force to do what Team Liquid and G2 fans had done before them and have a bit of a somewhat embarrassing circle jerk. Na'Vi's the best organisation in game and it's not even close. Got downvoted and deleted. Also, it went unnoticed by the players, fans and everyone else yesterday during the opening stage matches for IEM Cologne 2024. The T's were awarded $800 for a bomb plant even when it was defused by the CT side during both the Saw versus FaZe and G2 versus Mouse matches. ESL commented on the matter in a Reddit post earlier this morning with ESL product manager Michael Sinil Parsons describing the issue as human error and clarifying that it was not a bug. Sinel also noted that the issue occurred only for these two-stage matches and did not affect any of the contests during IEM Cologne 2024. We've looked into the situation with our tournament management team and can confirm that this specific setting in the config was incorrect after switching from the group stages of the tournament to the playoff stage, Sinel commented. The fault is due to human error and not a bug. We've reached out to the teams and will address the issue internally. We can confirm that this has now been fixed for the remainder of the games in the playoff stage. Now, I'm old enough to remember when something like this happening was catastrophic, and teams and players would go on social media and they would mock the tournament operator for doing it and blame them and say it's all their fault, and you can't. No, none of that happens, of course, because it's ESL. So no, you will notice nobody said a single solitary thing about it. If this was PGL, if this was Blast, I mean, to a lesser extent Blast, but if it was PGL, if it was Blast, no one would have shut the fuck up about this. This would be, lol, multi-million-dollar tournament, lol, can't do anything right, lol. Someone would have blamed Valve, right? That was all there. This is not the first time a situation like this has occurred. Oh, really? Where else did it happen? During IEM Dallas, the first day of matches did not have the correct config loaded, which was pointed out by Falcons, IGL, Marco, Snappy, Pfeiffer. The situation was quickly rectified and the tournament continued without incident. Oh, right, okay. Happening a lot of these ESL tournaments. This Intel Extreme Masters circuit, which is meant to be the premier circuit of all, that Intel put money into. Intel, the company that obviously are all about diversity and inclusion, which is totally in line with the Saudi Arabian state values. But anyway, seems to be happening quite a bit. Don't know. Might be something you might want to talk about. No, we're not going to talk about that. Don't worry about it. It's just ESL things. It's fine. Also, I do want to point out that there was a show match. And do you remember when PGL did that terrible show match that we all poked fun of? Because it was like, it looked like a load of garbage that came together at the last minute. And it turned out it kind of was. Well, let's have a look at this show match. I don't know why people don't want to play in show matches. Seems to be the kind of fun thing I would like to do, but then again, I guess I'm not a millionaire. So this was the Tabson versus Rigon's team, and I was like, okay, well, I suppose. But there was one issue. Wait, Zen, the alternate attack coach, Zen. Oh, cool. So let me get this straight. I can be adjacent to match fixing and cheating and admit to cheating after I'm caught cheating, after lying about cheating, and I get to play in a show match on the stage, one of the biggest tournaments on the calendar. Oh, well, that seems perfectly reasonable. Big fan of that. So, for those who don't know, this is Zen's confession. This is his confession back in 2017. Hello, boys. First of all, I would truly apologize for any fans, supporters, opponents, and especially my old teammates who didn't know about it. Let's talk about how everything started in September 2015. At that time, I had private issues and other issues in my life which were not solved. I'm not saying what exactly happened. Therefore, I was about to quit CS and thought about cheating. Oh, it was one of them. I cheated one time and I got caught one time. Always the same story, innit? Cheated one time, got caught the one time I cheated. Therefore, I was about to quit CS and thought about cheating. So I started to ask some cheat coders for a free cheat. On the same day, I got an answer from a cheat coder with an offer to test his cheat for free. After testing the cheat on my Smurf, I never cheated on my main account, I decided to cheat in the official match against Publicly. We won the game, and immediately one day after the game, there was a Boost movie uploaded on YouTube. After that Boost movie, I think that means like a bust movie, I think it is what he means, not a boost movie, a bust. He's been busted. A bust movie. My team asked me if I used cheats, and I said no. I'm really sorry for that, and would like to apologize to all of them for my inappropriate behavior. And I would also send my apologies to Fabe, who I lied to back in the days. I used cheats in these 3 games. Now, you're going to recognize some of these games from the fucking video I did on the German match fixing bullshit. Volgaire versus UX. I mean, are we fucking serious? So you just so happen to use cheats in games with that just also happen to have match fixes in. Almost as if you were trying to manipulate an outcome. Now listen, what do I know about that, mate? Seems a bit weird, doesn't it? But whatever, no proof, so we just got to move on, I guess. Like I said in the beginning, I never used cheats on my main account because I was scared of getting a VAC ban. That's why I was playing with my Smurf. Furthermore, I didn't want to complain about my Faceit ban because I deserved the ban 100%, but I have no idea how they found something because I never used it on my main account. It's almost as if there's a fucking kernel level anti-cheat and they can look on your fucking PC, you melt. He's a coach. He's a professional coach, this cunt. Regardless, I am sorry if I let anyone down, especially my teammates who deserve much better than being hated for my wrongdoing. If there is anyone you need to hate, it's definitely me and not them, because they are amazing players. I also want to apologise to UX Gaming and their sponsors. They're an amazing group of people. I heard a lot of rumours about match fixing in our old team. We never talked about match fixing in our team, and therefore these rumours are false and wrong information. I never betted on myself or against myself. All right, then. All in all, I'm really sorry for everything, what happened in the past, cheating and scamming, but I cannot change the past, and therefore I want to show you in the future with my actions. I really mean the things above, and that I've really changed. Sorry for my Englando. It's not my main language. I will try to compete again and try my best. I don't know, mate. Kind of feel like you haven't even paid the piper on that one, and now it's fine. Hey, we need some Germans, to play in a show match. So should we get the one that publicly admitted to cheating in those dubious games with the strange betting patterns? Should we get them? It's like, I don't know. Does this set a bad precedent? Does anyone care? Nah, it's fine. It's ESL. Why would you want ESL to vet who plays in the show match? Yeah, my bad. Silly me. Then, because it was a grand final, it did bring out some genuine bona fide psychos, which always happens. You get people who were sort of like adrift on the internet, adrift mentally. They just happen to watch a tournament and then they go, oh, I'll just post something. And it's like, no, definitely don't do that, mate. Keep on walking. We don't want you to stick around. You just keep on going somewhere else. And anyway, you end up with stuff like this. Why do casters never acknowledge in-game items? What do you mean? I watch a lot of playoff games, but I don't think I've heard casters mention any skins or anything else. They don't have to go full owner pixel, but when players in games against Na'Vi have Na'Vi stickers on their guns, I think it's interesting. I think it's an interesting thing to mention. Or gloves matching the gun or something like that. So what this person thinks, right, a genuine opinion that they genuinely decided to share, is they think commentary would be enhanced if a commentator in the middle of a match, a competitive game, at a major event or a world championship, started saying, I'm just going to cut you off there, Alex. I don't know if you've noticed, but if we just go back here, I don't know if you can see it. I love the way that the blue from the gloves really goes well with the fucking Bumberclot skin. I don't know the names of any skins, with the Rasclot skin there, and the way it all flows. You could go out dressed like that, couldn't you? It'd be so nice. And then, yeah, Sponge, it's right. It's really pretty. Like, what the fuck? Who wants to hear that? Like, if that was a requirement of commentary, I'd stop watching. I'd be like all the other dickheads who go, I have to mute the casters. Like, what are we even fucking talking about? And even drop the classic, if people didn't care about skins, they wouldn't sell for thousands of dollars, and Owner-Pixel streaming the game wouldn't steal half the viewers from the official stream. Perfect. Now, I'll also just add, we've seen some less than savoury things put on skins, haven't we, historically, down the years? Does anyone want to, a commentator? And what's Zeus's knife called? So, yeah, I don't know. Not great. What else did we have from the Psychos? Oh, yeah. More evidence, if any was needed, that the word GOAT is being stretched beyond all recognition. Imma appreciation post. Hey, at least put some respect on my boy's name. He fucking carried today, this was straight after the final. As a Romanian fan, it's sad to see Ziwu taking 2 trophies and 2 MVPs away from Imma, but now he has definitely proven that he belongs in Na'Vi. Respect, Romanian GOAT. Love this one. After winning IEM Cologne in his 3rd finals attempt, where do you rate Apex all time? Having secured the decade-long evasive Cologne trophy, the 2-time major champion has an impressive trophy shelf in his lengthy and durable CS career. He's never been the star of the team, though in terms of the value he provides his team, where does the community rate the French veteran? And this is how I love how all great Reddit posts start. Possible recency bias. Yeah, I'm going to say it is, because you're posting on fucking Reddit and none of you have a fucking memory. But for me, he's somewhere around the bottom of the top 10 as far as CSGO CS2 was concerned. Quite a bit lower if we include 1.6. There you go. He's in the top 10 players of all time now because he won Cologne today. And then this was my personal favourite, posted moments after the final. Have to wonder what was going through his head. I'm sure probably going to find his way to Vaxux. What's the probability that majors are staged? Don't get mad at me. This is just a random thought. But do you ever wonder what if majors are staged? Players know what's going to happen as they're following a plan, and wins whoever has more money. Everyone's using softwares to get these nasty shots for the videos, to advertise the gear, etc. Random thought, which possibly isn't true, but I thought I'll share it anyway. It's possibly not true that every major CS tournament is staged. And it's not a troll. I know people are like, that's a troll, that's a bait. No. Got downvoted, called a mentalist, and then deleted it. Didn't let it start. Trolls don't go and delete threads that get downvoted because they're trolling you. This guy deleted this thread because he was like, well, guess people aren't ready to hear the truth about how the majors and all major CS tournaments could indeed be fixed. All of which is to say, Cologne was pretty good. I had a good time with it this year. Enjoyed the games. Thought it was pretty fantastic final. Definitely delivered some cool storylines. And overall, looking forward to the next big out, which is going to be... we do have Blast, but that's the showdown. It's Pro League. And Pro League's not like the same kind of tournament. It lasts forever, even if they have condensed how much time it occupies in the calendar. But the playoffs will be good. And, all the big teams are going to be there again. So we're entering an interesting period as we sort of kind of hurtle towards the major, which is it's really creeping up on us. It's coming around a lot sooner than you'd think. But yeah, I thought Cologne was pretty good.